Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. Of course, my name is Bryce. If you joined us yesterday, I premiered an episode that I shot with Midwest Night Watchers, Jane and Gerald. This is their channel. And we spoke a lot about a topic that has been wildly fascinating to me over these past few years. We've gone off and on with this topic, and this is the topic of our geography, our world geography, more specifically Egypt. And the fact that there is overwhelming evidence that the Egypt in Africa is not actually Egypt. And in fact, the Egypt that they speak about in the Bible and in all these ancient texts is actually here in America. And this is very, very fascinating. Of course, we get into why would they lie, what's our real history, all that kind of stuff. And we did speak about that. We did speculate about that yesterday in the episode with Midwest Night Watchers, Jane and Gerald. But we talked about the Native Americans and how, I have an old history book here from the 1800s, a children's American history book that speaks about how the Native Americans were actually all races. There were white Native American tribes, Black Native American tribes, as well as Asian Native American tribes, and that what we've been taught as a Native American is not actually Native American. And the fact that the Cherokee also spoke about the Moon-Eyed people, like they basically said they weren't the first inhabitants of this land, that they're not the first people of this land. And we really got to this conversation. So that got me to thinking about what the Cassiopians might have to say about the quote unquote Native Americans. And so I pulled up the Cassiopian forum, and I did find something from the 7th of October, 1994. So from the very, very beginning. Now, as I've said many times with the Cassiopians, I don't believe from what I have seen, and I could be wrong, but from what I have seen in my study of the transcripts, I don't think Laura or the forum is really ready to ask about geography. They don't seem particularly interested. Sometimes I feel like they're so academic that they have a hard time releasing some of the academic knowledge and going with the flow of what might actually be the truth. And with the Cassiopians, if you don't ask a question, they're not going to answer it. Some of you guys have asked, we did the Titanic, and they basically said that the boat that sank was the Titanic. And then somebody asked, was it done for nefarious purposes? I'm paraphrasing. But nobody asked that. So the Cassiopians are never going to fill in the blanks because they don't want to mess with our free will. So if someone had followed up by saying, did they do this for a particular reason, or was it just an accident? The Cassiopians then would have answered, but because nobody asked that question, they didn't answer it. So with the whole geography thing, it doesn't seem like many people in this forum have wanted to go there for whatever reason. So we don't have that answer, but we do have an answer from where the Native Americans came from. Again, this comes back from 1994. I hope that makes sense. Now, with that being said, if you're new here and you don't know who the Cassiopians are, just wait 1 second. We're going to play a 2-minute little video to give you more information about who the Cassiopians are. If you've been around for a while, you can just move your little mouse icon and skip over it. But nonetheless, let's just go ahead and play an introduction to the Cassiopians. Laura Knight's Cassiopian experiments, often associated with the Cassiopeia material, involves the exploration of consciousness, spirituality, and the nature of reality. Through various methodologies, including channeling and psychic experiments, Knight and her collaborators sought to communicate with higher intelligences, particularly a group of entities referred to as the Cassiopians. The primary aim was to gain insight into the metaphysical questions, the nature of existence, and human development. The experiments included multi-session discussions that covered topics like multidimensional realities, free will, and the influence of higher dimensional beings on humanity. Knight recorded these sessions, which often contained profound philosophical and esoteric insights, and these records became part of a larger body of work that aimed to explore consciousness beyond conventional scientific understanding. The overall tone of the experiments reflect a blend of skepticism and deep inquiry into the nature of consciousness and our place in the universe. Laura Knight began her communication with the Cassiopians in 1994. She is still in communication with the Cassiopians to this day. If you would like a better understanding of the Cassiopians and their impact on humanity, I would highly suggest checking out the Wave series by Laura Knight, the Cassiopian Forum, which a link will be provided in the description box below, or purchasing the book that I personally am reading from that contains all of the transcripts and conversations between Laura and the Cassiopians. The Cassiopians base the soul's evolution and consciousness on the spiritual template known as the Law of One. The Law of One is also known as the raw material. It is a series of philosophical texts that emerged from a series of channeling sessions conducted by Carla Rucker, Don Elkins, and Jim McCarthy in the early 1980s. The sessions involved channeling a consciousness known as Ra, who claimed to be a collective of extraterrestrial beings from the sixth density. The key concepts in the Law of One are unity and oneness. The central tenet of the Law of One is that all beings are fundamentally interconnected and are expressions of the same universal consciousness. The phrase, "we are all one," encapsulates this idea, emphasizing that unity is the essence of existence. It also covers the densities of existence. The material describes the cosmos as composed of multiple densities or levels of existence. Each density represents a stage of spiritual evolution, with humans currently experiencing a third density, which is characterized by lessons in love, understanding, and most importantly, making choices. We also seek to understand in the Law of One soul evolution. According to Ra, souls undergo a process of evolution through these densities, learning and growing through various incarnations. The choice between these paths influences one's spiritual evolution and the experiences one encounters in life. There's also discussions of the role of free will. Free will is considered sacred, and individuals are encouraged to explore and make choices regarding their spiritual development without interference from higher beings. If you would like more information on the Law of One, please make sure to check out the material for yourself. A link to all resources will be posted down in the description box below. But for now, let's get on with the show. All right, you guys, and once again as well, before we get, I meant to do this in the beginning, so I apologize, but before we get into the reading, I just want to let you guys know that the Esoteric Academy is now on Instagram. We have now opened up an Instagram account, so let me pull that up for you guys to see. If you're interested in following us over on Instagram, this is the Esoteric Academy. So I have Esoteric Atlanta and my own personal page. And then Paula has just opened up the Esoteric Academy. So if you want to keep up with the Esoteric Academy on Instagram, a link to that will be down in the description box below. I am also over on Substack. I'm still learning Substack, but I do tend to post a lot of my videos over on Substack, so it helps you keep up with the work here, especially when we're dealing with crazy algorithms and all that kind of stuff. So a link to my Substack will also be down in the description box below. All right, let's get into the Cassiopians. And this is from the 7th of October, 1994. I was 11 years old. So how old were you in 1994? Okay, so Frank and Laura. Hello, hello. What's your name? Bayrira? Where are you from, Cassiopeia? Are you the next in line for the energy disbursement? Precisely. You are learning well. Are you dispersing the energy to us? Answer, no. Are we giving energy to you? Answer, near. Our distribution is akin to taking turns. Our disbursement is akin to taking a turn. So every time they're on the board with the Cassiopians, another entity will speak, because it does take a lot of energy, I guess, to cross that barrier and speak to us. So they take turns in order to preserve energy. Is there an advantage to taking turns as opposed to having one communicant? Answer, yes. What is the advantage? Answer, energy equalization. Question, Laura, is it difficult for you to make contact with us? Answer, no. Laura, would it be difficult for you to make contact with others? Answer, becoming easier with you. Question, Laura, I would like to know the time of the great dying of the major dinosaurs, the big critters? Answer, 27 million years ago as measured by your scale. Question, Laura, regarding the fall in Eden and the loss of the Adamic state, how long ago did that happen? 309,000 years ago approximately. Question, Laura, what was the situation? What happened? What was the state of mankind? Answer, loss of faith caused knowledge and physical restrictions by outside forces. Question, Laura, what did the snake or the tempter represent? Forces known to you as Lizzies. We've already taught you this. Question, Laura, I was just checking. Answer, faith, dear. Question, Laura, I'm having faith. I'm just checking. Answer, suit yourself. Question, Laura, who were the original creators of the human race? Answer, us. Question, Laura, the Cassiopians, correct? Answer, yes. Question, Laura, for what purpose did you create us? Was it a mandate from God? Answer, soul development or advancement. Question, Laura, the Sumerian story of the creation of human beings involves a story where they say they killed a god and mixed his blood in parts to mix with mud and then planted it in these female gestation goddesses, and that this is where the human race came from. Now, this sounds an awful lot like what the Greys are doing at the present time. Did somebody actually unalive a god, break his soul in pieces, and thereby make the human race? Answer, symbolism and not correct event sequence. Question, Laura, what was that story about? What was the real seed event? Answer, lizard beings genetically altering the human race after battle for their own feeding purposes. And we're talking about this currently over on the Esoteric Academy, you guys know we've done shows about how we're the fallen angels, that we were a soul group that were basically invited to come into physicality by the Lizzies, and now that we're here, we're having to go through the process of being in physicality. And there is, we're in third density, so next density is fourth, so we either go service to others or service to self. But the Lizzies are very much trying to get us to go service to self so that they can feed off of us. And we do know that our DNA was altered. Paul and I are going through that now with the Nordic Covenant and what happened to the altering of DNA. For our junk DNA, the missing 10 DNA strands that science calls junk DNA, all that kind of stuff. So join us with Paula and my episodes because we're going more into that. When did these events that these Sumerian stories are talking about take place? 309,000 years ago approximately. So it happened so long ago that these stories have lost the truth? Answer, reflection passed down through psychic memory channel. Question, Laura, what killed off the major dinosaurs? Answer, comet impact. Question, Laura, what was the source of this comet? Answer, cluster. Question, Laura, how long was this comet cluster? Question, Laura, how long has this comet cluster been with us in our solar system? 809 million years. Question, Laura, what was the origin of this comet cluster? Was it originally a large planet? Answer, no. Question, Laura, you said the other night that there was a planet between Mars and Jupiter that was destroyed and became the asteroid belt. Was this planet ever inhabited by sentient beings? Answer, yes. Question, Laura, what caused this planet to be destroyed? Answer, psychic energy. Question, Laura, and where did the beings come from that Question, Laura, and where did the beings come from that lived on this planet? Did they evolve there? Answer, no. Question, Laura, they were also like us, created beings? Answer, yes. Question, Laura, who created them? Answer, same. Question, Laura, the Cassiopians? Answer, yes. Question, Laura, okay, who created the Cassiopians? Answer, your super ancient spiritual ancestors. Question, Laura, do these beings have a name? Answer, no. Question, Laura, what are they called? Answer, transient passengers. Question, Laura, where are these transient passengers from? Answer, too difficult to explain on this medium, lengthy. Question, Laura, what is the closest you know to be the original God creator force? Answer, seek other medium, computer. Too complicated to answer, right? Question, Laura, this cluster of comets that you talk about that caused an impact, did one of the clusters impact the Earth at the time of the dinosaurs dying? Answer, no one was large enough for event. Question, Laura, was it some of these comets in the cluster that hit Earth? Answer, yes, 14 hit at that occasion. Question, Laura, does this cluster of comets orbit around the sun? Answer, yes. Your government already knows they're coming close again. Question, Laura, you said that the orbit is around the sun. Where does it enter the plane of the ecliptic? Answer, varies. Question, Laura, does it enter between Mars and Jupiter, for example? Answer, sometimes. Question, Laura, is the orbit perpendicular to the plane of the ecliptic, or is it at an angle? Answer, in between. Question, Laura, what degrees of angles does it intersect the plane of the ecliptic? Not correct. Idea structure. Picture a spirograph. I get so annoyed with these questions. This is why sometimes I think they're just too caught in their academic mind, because a lot of this stuff that is valuable to us here on third density and this time and space, like right now, is not going to matter once we transfer. And the Cassiopians have actually said this to them a lot, like, this is a waste of time asking these questions because you're not going to understand it because it goes beyond the realms of third density. All right, Laura, do the comets orbit around themselves? Do they have a sort of axis? Answer, no. How many are in this cluster? Answer, varies. Question, Laura, do they lose or pick up from time to time? Answer, yes. Question, Laura, how big is the biggest one at this time? Answer, 900 miles diameter, spirograph. Question, Laura, the planet that was destroyed between Jupiter and Mars, you said it was destroyed by psychic energy. Answer, yes. Question, Laura, what was the source of this psychic energy? Beings inhabiting the planet. Question, Laura, do beings in this area of the galaxy just sort of destroy their planets from time to time? Is this getting to be a habit? Answer, close, has been. Question, Laura, did any of those beings leave the planet and come to Earth? Answer, yes. I know where we're going with this. We've talked about Kentucky before, the planet Kentucky. And who were they? Were they human like us? Blonde and blue-eyed descendants. So if you got blonde hair and blue eyes, this is where your ancestors are from. Was that a colder planet? Answer, no. What was that planet? Was that planet much like Earth? Answer, yes. Answer, blue eyes. Eye pigment was because planet was further from Sol, or from the sun. Question, Laura, how did the people of that planet come to Earth? Did they know it was going to be destroyed? Some knew and were taken by Lizzies, and they are the Anunnaki. So the Lizzies removed them from the planet, brought them to Earth. They sometimes fourth density will do this, right? They will do a service to others action. They'll come save you, but it's a manipulation tactic. Yeah? It's kind of like love bombing, right? So they brought my ancestors, if you're blonde hair, blue eyed, your ancestors here, they saved our ancestors, brought us here to save our lives, to then eventually enslave us on this planet with all the other inhabitants of this planet. Now you say the father of Jesus was an Aryan. Where did he come from? Palestine. What is the origin of the Aryan race? Fifth planet, now known as Asteroid Belt 1. Question, Laura, when did they come to Earth? Answer, 80,000 years ago. Difficult for us to use your measuring system. Question, Laura, were they similar in form and structure to what they are now? Answer, yes. Question, Laura, why is it that our scientists have not been able to uncover evidence of such ancient existence? Answer, they have. Do not want to acknowledge it. So this is why, you guys, we've talked about how the Smithsonian gets in trouble a lot for getting rid of incinerating fossils. Like, yeah, Laura, they absolutely have evidence. And if you go study lawsuits, they have gotten in a lot of trouble for burning a lot of fossils that disprove the official narrative that is approved for us to learn. Which obviously the ancient history we've learned is complete bullshit in school. It's not real. It's not the real history. Question, Laura, where do the Celts come from? Same. Ferocious people came from the fifth planet. Question, Laura, when was that planet destroyed? Answer, 80,000 years ago. Laura, were there any descendants of Jesus from individuals that we now know? Yes. Arafat, Churchill. Question, Laura, You said that the Exodus occurred in 2000. You said that the Exodus, question Laura, you said that the Exodus occurred in 2676. Is that BC or years ago? Answer BC. Question Laura, if the Exodus occurred in 2676 BC, that is 4,670 years ago, more or less. This would mean that this was not related to the comet cluster, which came in 1588 BC. Answer correct. Question Laura, the comet cluster came by Question Laura, the comet cluster came by 8788 BC. Is that correct? Answer close enough. Question Laura, was there any historical cataclysm recorded in history that could relate to that passing? Answer no. Question Laura, and Noah's flood occurred in 12,388 BC. Is that correct? Answer close. Laura, now the time of the passing of Venus was the time of the Exodus. Is that correct? Was Venus a result of this cluster of comets? Answer, stimulated by gravitational pull. Question Laura, Venus was stimulated by gravitational pull? Answer, attracted. Question Laura, Venus was drawn into the solar system by the gravitational pull of the cluster of comets? Answer, yes. Question Laura, where did Venus get all its gases and clouds and so forth? What is its origin? Where did it get all of this stuff? Answer, collected during fiery, friction-filled journey and space matter in general. Question Laura, where was Venus originally from? Answer, ancient wanderer from near Arcturus. Question Laura, what are Mars's moons? Answer, disguised bases. Question Laura, who built them? Answer, who else? The Lizzies. Question Laura, the film I saw at Andy's house, The Mars Landing, was that an actual film of Mars landing? Answer, false. Question Laura, has there been a landing on Mars by the United States? Answer, no. Question Laura, is Al Bielek a phony? Answer, semi. Question Laura, did he work on the Philadelphia Project? Answer, no. Question Laura, was he brainwashed to have false, outrageous memories? Answer, no. Question Laura, is he lying deliberately? Answer, instructed by government for disinformation dissemination. Most of the truthers are doing the same thing. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. All of these people who are feeding you bullshit about some Star Wars story where you at night are going off and fighting a galactic battle on a dragon, those are people who were put on YouTube by the government to give you disinformation. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. At this point, the truthers are the most asleep people in the world. All right. Laura, did a spacecraft of Lizzie's piloted by the Greys crash in Roswell? Answer, yes. What caused the crash? Ionization. Were the bodies in the craft recovered by the United States government? Answer, yes. Are the Majestic 12 documents semi-factional? Were they dummied up? Answer, near. Question Laura, who did this and why? Answer, to leak information and disinformation. Many were involved. 3-letter agencies. Is the information in the book Majestic by Whitley Strieber factual? Semi-factual. There are many glaring falsehoods. What's the source of the Native American Indians? Answer, Asian. Question, across the Bering Strait, as we were taught in school? No. Rescued and transferred. By whom? The Greys. What were they rescued out of? Cataclysm. When did the cataclysm occur? 7,200 years ago, approximately. What was the nature of the cataclysm? Comets. Where do the Basque people come from? Atlantis. Is their language the Atlantean language? Derivative. Now, the Basque people do have their own particular language. They are O negative like I am. That's interesting. So the Native Americans are not Atlanteans. The Basque people are. And the Native Americans did not travel across the Bering Strait. They were taken from Asia and placed here in America after a cataclysm. Which came first, the Sumerians or the Egyptians? Sumerians. Where did the Egyptians come from? Atlantis. So if the Basque people are Atlanteans and the Egyptians came from Atlanteans, that really pulls away this idea that Egyptians are solely darker skinned people, because the Basque people are white. They've lied to us, guys, and then they tried to divide us by race. So which came first, the Sumerians or the Atlanteans? The Atlanteans. Were the Sumerians a high civilization at the same time the Atlanteans were after? Did the Atlanteans go to Sumeria and afterwards go to Egypt? Traveled. The Atlanteans traveled to Sumeria? Yes. Did they set up outposts in Sumeria? Yes. And then did the main Atlanteans move to Egypt when Atlantis was destroyed? Yes, and elsewhere. Where did the Atlanteans go? Americas? There we go. Boom, boom, boom. America's Inca, Aztec, Maya, Hopi tribe, Pima tribe. Now, again, they've never asked where geographically was Egypt. They've never asked that. But that's quite telling, isn't it? Where did the Atlanteans go? We know that the Native Americans are not Atlanteans. They were moved from Asia. So, but the Atlanteans did come here at some point. So does this describe what the Native America, or what the settlers in America found when they came to America, when they found tribes of all different races? When the Jews were dispersed, did some of them come to America? A few. Who was the angel that communicated with the prophet Daniel? Us. Who gave to John revelation? The Lizzies. Oh my God, the Lizzies gave the book of Revelation. Who did Paul encounter on the road to Damascus? Spirit of the sixth density. If revelations are from the bad guys, are they accurate portrayal of the end times? Answer, close. What is the source of the prophecies of Isaiah? Friction. That's why you can't take prophecies from other people seriously, guys. What was the source of the so-called Cassiopians when Candy was present? Was that you guys? Mixed. Does juniper have a solid core? Answer, Jupiter. Does Jupiter have, Juniper is a street up for me. Does Jupiter have a solid core? Yes. Was Zechariah Sitchin correct in naming of his planets? No. Was the interpretation I gave it more correct? Better but needs help. True meaning of the word Shem? Purity. What language is the root of this word found in? Atlantean Hebrew. Where did the Jews come from? Atlantis. Who was Yahweh, fictional being? Who was the God that spoke to Moses on the Mount? Audible projection of Lizzies. So yeah, Moses was totally talking to the Lizzies, not to God. But we've known that. We've talked about it before. They've mentioned that up before. The burning bush was a Lizzie. Everything Moses talked to was a demonic Lizzie, not the actual God, because Lizzies will pretend to be God, but if you don't ask the right questions, you're going to follow them off a cliff, basically. Did Moses at any time realize that he had been duped by the Lizzies? No. Yet the other night you said that Moses is doing his work with Christ on another planet. Is that correct? Yes. Well, if he was misled by the Lizzies, how did he get to be a good guy? Taught afterward. After what? Plane transfer. Did Moses die? No. Who took us? Who took him? Us. End of session. That was fascinating, guys. Anyway, I thought that was a great follow-up to our episode with Midwest Night Watchers. Let me know your thoughts and your comments down in the comment section below. And we will see you guys tomorrow with an episode on the occult with Criminal Justice Chris.